Author Pav. Jungkook had always prided himself on his sharp focus and determination, traits that had earned him respect in the boardroom and admiration among his peers. But lately, he couldn't shake the thoughts of Wai Thin from his mind. Every meeting, every decision, every conversation seemed to blur as his thoughts kept drifting back to her. How could he reach her without making a fuss? Without stirring up rumors or unwanted attention? It was frustrating, this constant battle between his personal feelings and his professional life. During today's meeting, it was more evident than ever. Jimin, who was sitting across the table from Jungkook, noticed how distracted his friend seemed. His usual sharp eyes were unfocused, and his hand tapped restlessly against the edge of the table. Taehyung, too, caught the subtle signs, narrowing his eyes as he observed Jungkook's behavior. It was unlike him to be this unfocused, especially with so much riding on their current business decisions. Once the meeting wrapped up and everyone trickled out of the room, Jimin and Taehyung lingered. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, Jimin leaned casually against the wall, his playful grin appearing. "So, you're going to tell us what's been going on with you lately?" he asked, his voice light, but his eyes searching. Jungkook let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair. I can't stop thinking about Wai Thin," he admitted, his tone low and hesitant, like the words themselves were a confession he wasn't ready to make. Taehyung raised an eyebrow, a knowing smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Ah, so it's that kind of distraction," he teased. Jimin pushed off the wall, his smile widening. "Well, Jungkook, if you're so distracted, why don't you just use your power? Make her yours," he suggested, his tone light but laced with a mischievous edge. "You're the CEO, after all. Marry her, make it official." Jungkook's face flushed slightly. "I can't just marry her," he muttered, clearly uncomfortable with the casual suggestion. "And I can't let her know who I really am. Not yet. She doesn't need to know I'm the Mafia king. It'll only complicate things more." Jimin and Taehyung exchanged a glance, before Jimin spoke up again, his grin wide and playful. "Sounds like you're really in love, how?" he said, the words teasing, but there was a certain fondness in his voice. Who would have thought? Are serious, all business Jungkook falling for someone? Jungkook sighed, leaning back in his chair as he thought it over. "I don't know what to do. I don't want to scare her off, but I can't stop thinking about her. Every time I see her, I get this feeling. I'm not sure if I can keep pretending I'm just her boss." Taehyung chuckled, clapping Jungkook on the back. "You're in deep, my friend. But hey, if anyone can win her over, it's you. Just be honest with her. Start with that, and the rest will fall into place." Jimin nodded, his usual teasing demeanor softening for a moment. "Yeah, but don't keep her in the dark forever. Eventually, you're going to have to tell her who you really are. She deserves to know." Jungkook's mind raced as he considered his options. He couldn't deny that he had feelings for Wai Thin, but he was still struggling with how to approach her without overwhelming her. The last thing he wanted was to push her away by revealing too much too soon. He had to find a way to balance the business and personal sides of their relationship. But for now, all he could do was hope that his friend's advice would lead him in the right direction. Author's Pav. The office was abuzz with hushed whispers and stolen glances as Kang Anna swept through the doors of Jeon Enterprises, one of the Jungkook's business partner's daughter. Almost everyone in the office knows about her. Her arrival was like a scene straight out of a drama, her stiletto heels clicking against the polished floor with a confidence that turned heads in every direction. Clad in a sleek, crimson dress that hugged her figure perfectly, Anna exuded charm and power in equal measure. Her lips curved into a practiced smile as she made her way to Jungkook's office, leaving a trail of envious stares and curious murmurs behind her. Anna was the epitome of poise, her long, dark hair cascading over her shoulders like a crown. She knew she had a presence that commanded attention, and she used it effortlessly. After all, she was the daughter of a powerful business mogul and had spent her entire life learning how to navigate high society. But today, her mission wasn't about business, it was personal. Jungkook glanced up from his paperwork just as Anna sauntered into his office without so much as a knock. His expression remained unreadable, though there was a flicker of mild annoyance in his dark eyes. Dressed in a tailored black suit, he exuded an effortless authority that matched her elegance, but his demeanor was as cool and distant as ever. "Jungkook," Anna purred, her voice honeyed yet deliberate. "I thought I'd stop by to discuss the upcoming gala. After all, it's an excellent opportunity for you to make an impression on the right people. And of course, I'm happy to be your +1. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady but devoid of any warmth. "Thank you for the offer, Anna," he replied evenly, his tone polite but detached. "But I already have plans for the evening." Her smile faltered for a brief second before she recovered. "Oh. Plans? With whom, if I may ask?" "That's a personal matter," he replied, his voice firm, leaving no room for further probing. Undeterred, Anna tilted her head, her fingers casually tracing the edge of his desk. "You work so hard, Jungkook. Don't you think it's time to let loose and enjoy yourself a little? Life's too short to be all business, don't you agree?" Jungkook's eyes didn't waver as he stood, signaling the end of the conversation. "Thank you for your concern, Anna. If there's nothing else, I have work to attend to." Anna's smile remained fixed, but there was a hint of frustration beneath her composed exterior. With a final flirtatious glance, she turned and sashayed out of the office, her heels clicking with determination. Later that afternoon, while Anna's exit left the office buzzing, Wyvin was oblivious to the gossip swirling around her. Her focus was entirely on the mountain of tasks before her, a reflection of her determination to keep her job despite the storm in her personal life. Her mother's worsening health weighed heavily on her shoulders, and Wyvin was doing everything she could to juggle work and hospital visits. The sleepless nights and skipped meals had taken their toll, but she couldn't afford to falter. As she organized files in the CEO's office, her body betrayed her. The strain was too much, and a wave of dizziness washed over her. She blinked rapidly, trying to steady herself, but her vision blurred. The room seemed to spin around her, and she instinctively reached for the desk. The edge of the wood felt cold and distant beneath her trembling fingers. Her knees buckled, and she began to fall. Before she could hit the floor, strong arms wrapped around her, holding her steady. She felt the warmth of someone's presence as the faint scent of cologne filled her senses. "Why then?" Jungkook's voice was sharp, tinged with concern. Jungkook's pav. "Why then was in my arms before I even realized I'd moved." She was trembling, her face alarmingly pale, and I felt a rush of panic I couldn't quite explain. "Jungkook, why then?" "Hey, are you all right?" She tried to pull away, clearly embarrassed, but she was too weak to stand on her own. I tightened my grip, refusing to let her go. "Why then? I'm fine. I just need a moment." "Fine." She looked anything but fine. There was a glassy sheen in her eyes, and I could feel the heat radiating from her forehead. She was burning up, yet she was here, working as if nothing was wrong. I felt a surge of frustration. Why was she pushing herself so hard? "Jungkook, you're not fine, why then? You need to rest." But she shook her head, her eyes pleading with me. "Why then please, mister Jian? I can't. I have to finish this." I wanted to argue, to force her to rest, but I knew that look. She wouldn't listen, and I couldn't risk making things worse by pressuring her. Instead, I guided her to the couch, my hands lingering on her shoulders longer than necessary, feeling the unsteady rhythm of her breathing. And that's when the door swung open, and Anna walked in, her eyes widening at the sight before her. Author's pav. Anna's gaze flickered from Jungkook's worried expression to Wyvin's exhausted face, and something cold and calculating settled behind her eyes. She had walked in at the worst possible moment. Jungkook's hands still on Hyun's shoulders, their proximity suggesting an intimacy that wasn't there. But to Anna, it didn't matter what was actually happening. All she saw was a threat to her pursuit of Jungkook. Anna's smile was tight, almost forced, as she approached them. Anna sweetly, but with a hint of steel, "Oh, am I interrupting something?" Jungkook's expression hardened, and he released his grip on Hyun, stepping back. Jungkook coolly, "No, Anna. What do you need? Why did you come back?" Anna's eyes lingered on Hyun for a moment, assessing, before she turned back to Jungkook with a practiced smile. "Anna, Dad told me to give these files to you, but I can wait if this is more important." There was an edge to her tone that made Hyun's stomach tighten with unease. She felt a surge of heat rise to her cheeks, not from illness this time, but from the humiliation of being caught in such a vulnerable moment. She stood up shakily, forcing a polite smile onto her lips. "Hyun, I'll leave you two to discuss." "Excuse me, Mr. Jeon." She left the room, feeling Anna's eyes burning into her back, and a cold pit of dread settled in her stomach. Something told her that Anna wasn't going to let this go.